Never take it down again.
Well, it seemed like it came so fast after Thanksgiving. Thanksgiving felt late.
Oh, thank you.
And did-
Thank you. I was very busy. Okay, call to order. And would you like to take the vote?
Andrew Wheeler,
Yes.
David Burkhart,
Here.
Jeff Nico,
Yes.
Linda Marquez.
Here.
Didn't have my mic on.
No, I was just leaning forward.
The microphone system should pick us all.
Okay, great.
All right, this portion of the meeting is reserved for persons desiring to address the committee on any matter not on the agenda. Is there any member of the public that would like to speak at this time? Okay, then we will move on to the approval of the November 13th minutes. We are here.
I did not print out the full packet, just the transaction.
Oh,
This was November.
November was.
November 13th.
November was the meeting. that
And it
we
was the,
finalized the report.
yes.
Right,
Yes.
okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so,
November was the tour meeting.
oh, the
We went on the
tour.
tour. We went on the.
Oh,
tour.
right.
Yeah.
Okay, anyone want to change any of the minutes from that?
Did we capture that we ran over?
All right, hearing none, like to take the call.
I'm sorry, who made the motion in
Oh.
the second?
I
Jeff?
can vote.
And then the second,
I'll second.
you, Andrew Wheeler,
Yes,
David Burkhart.
Yes.
Jeff Nico.
Yes.
Linda Marquez.
Yes.
the opening report, I have none. I always forget that you guys do your report at the end. Okay, so moving on to new business, the first item of new business is the election of committee officers for 2025, which is chairperson and vice chairperson. And if staff would like to present on this item.
Pursuant to section 4.3 of the Plan Oversight Committee bylaws, the election for the Expenditure Plan Oversight Committee Chair and Vice Chairperson shall be held at the first regular meeting of the committee each year. Each office shall be voted on separately by roll call. The candidate receiving a majority of votes of the committee shall be elected and will assume office at the immediately at the meeting. Officers shall be eligible for re-election. So, Chair, if you would like to open the floor to nominations, we'll take nominations for chairperson first.
Okay,
We'll close the nominations and then we'll take nominations for vice chair.
Okay.
Second, and then we'll vote at the end.
okay. I open the chair for nominations for chairperson. I would like to nominate Dave Burkhart for chairperson. Would anyone else like to make a nomination?
I would like to nominate Andrew. as chairperson.
Thank you,
Uh-huh.
but I decline.
Sounds like that volunteer discussion we're having.
You're not getting away.
I believe that the chair should roll over every few years, so I appreciate the nomination, but I do decline. You can decline the nomination of yourself. Any other nominations for chair? Hearing none, we will take the vote.
Let's do vice chair and
Oh.
then we'll vote on each one.
Okay. I will open the nominations to nominate Linda for vice chair.
I had a feeling you were gonna do that.
And I hope that you're not in any way offended by that, but I thought it was time to get new blood in this whole thing.
I am totally not.
If I'm nominated, I'll accept.
Any other nominations?
And then we'll vote on vice chair first and then chairperson.
Okay.
No seconds are needed, so we can just.
Candidates should perhaps give a speech about their qualifications and what they'll do if they're, elected, and I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
I need more
You're just
strength.
hoping- you're just hoping that, we're all just hoping they say yes, let's just be honest.
Oh, and also, do you want to ask for public comments?
Do I ask for public comments before the vote?
Yes.
Yes, is there any member of the public who would like to comment? On the character of these nominations.
There are none.
Yeah, don't Google my name.
All right, so hearing none,
Okay.
then we'll take the vote.
All right. Andrea Wheeler,
Yes.
David Burkhardt,
Yes.
Jeff Micco,
Yes.
Linda Marquez.
I guess yes.
Wonderful. And now for chairperson.
For just one moment.
Yes, I want to get your setting.
Wheeler, David Burkhardt, Jeff Micco,
Yes.
Linda Marquez.
Yes.
That motion passes.
You may be shocked to find out that you are now the chairperson.
I'd like to start my list of executive actions right now.
You are actually now the chairperson, but there is this script, which is very helpful that you can just follow along. So we just finished new business number 1, and then we're up to new business number 2.
Okay, so new business number 2 involves the viewing the application from Dennis Watson, who's in the back room here for a vacant expenditure plan oversight committee seat. And so staff, you present on the item.
Yes. I'm Caroline Hernandez, clerk of the board, and this item is to review the application for the vacant expenditure plan oversight committee seat from Dennis Watson. And Mr. Watson submitted his application on November 24th, 2024, along with a cover sheet and resume and references as attached in Exhibit A. And staff have verified that Mr. Watson lives within the authority's jurisdiction. And his application attested to meeting the minimum eligibility criteria. So with that, turn it over to Mr. Watson or through the chair if you have any questions.
I think it would just benefit everyone if you gave a thing on your background.
Sure.
And why you want the position.
Well, I grew up in San Jose, born and raised here, haven't gone very far. Lived in my current home for 46 years, which is, San Teresa Golf Course, my backyard facing the golf course. I married for 52 years, so I don't change very quickly. So I've got 2 adult children. My daughter lives in Spokane, and my son lives in Surprise, Arizona. So I've got the cold and I've got the hot. I don't have anything in the middle. And I've got 2 beautiful teenage granddaughters. I was in banking for 50 plus years. I worked for Bank of America, and then about 30 years of it was retail banking, but 20 plus years was on the mortgage side. And I grew on the west side of San Jose, so I was telling somebody that when I was a kid, I looked over my back fence, and it was the cherry orchards and the strawberry fields. And I lived right by where Santana Road is now, used to be Town and Country. I can remember when it was just Emporium and Macy's. That was it. So I appreciate the history of the valley. Grew up here. I love it here. I'm thankful I bought my house when I did because I got it for a great price back then. But I also am at the very south end of San Jose, so I get to enjoy the Coyote Valley. My wife and I use all the trails. Big supporter of open space. I think it's a great organization. I've been retired for 6 years, and I've been kind of feeling. I play golf a couple times a week, but I try to play golf. Not always successfully, but I also just want to give my time. I've got the time, and I volunteer at church for certain things. I've been on a couple boards, so I'm not looking for a paying job. I'm looking for something where I can help give back to the community, and that's why I saw David's post on Nextdoor. And I just thought it was, with my background, it seemed like it was a good fit for me. And I'm a big proponent of open space. I'm thankful that open space saved all the Coyote Valley. As I said, somebody else, back then, when we first moved in, it was going to be Cisco and Apple or another high-tech company. And it never happened, but I'm thankful it did because it's a beautiful part of our city and county. And just, I'm glad we saved it. We hike on Palm, we hike on Coyote, there's some great great hikes behind the golf course there. So anyway, that's my interest. I'm not looking for a career, I'm just looking to where I can contribute to the community.
Pretty controversial.
I'm sorry to make it. My wife wants to get out of the house.
No, we don't meet that often, sorry. You can tell we meet every week, but.
Yeah, well, thank you, Dennis, for that.
Thank
I think I think we share so many of your same sentiments. And so I guess I'll invite anyone from the public if they'd like to ask any questions.
There are none.
Okay. So at this point, we just move on to.
If you would like to call for a motion to move forward with the recommendation,
Yeah.
and that will get taken to the board of directors at their next regular meeting on February 27th. For approval.
So would someone like to?
And just out of curiosity, there isn't an action item on the agenda, it just says review.
On the staff report, it says make recommendation.
Oh, okay, because yeah. So,
You are correct. In this instance,
We can, or
Yeah.
it could be informal.
Yeah.
If you feel like it's not formal.
I think, that would be the best course of action to make the motion.
Okay,
You want to call
I
for an informal
move-
recommendation?
I move to make an informal recommendation.
Okay. Any second on that?
I'll second.
Okay, Linda seconds it. So, yes, then, we want to,
Yes,
we
we
want
want
to
to-
make the recommendation to the board.
Yes.
Well, wait, do we need to vote?
We'll still vote yes.
Okay, we need to vote.
Andrew Wheeler,
Yes.
David Burkhart,
Yes.
Jeff Nico,
Yes.
Linda Marquez.
Yes. But the final approval is at the board, right?
The final
Yeah.
approval is at,
But you'll pass on that formally. This
Yes.
is-
Yeah.
Yeah, all right. I just get the protocol down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just a small typo.
Oh, okay.
That you can clean up.
You don't mind, I'm just gonna grab a sandwich, please.
Don't forget.
Before we get into that.
We're good.
yes.
You got some. Yeah.
Do a lot of work.
Now that she's not chair, she just.
Just gonna chill out. Crack open a beer.
I was afraid David was going to nominate me for chairman. He was looking at me.
So, new business number 3, the presentation of the 23-24 Measure Q&T Annual Audit Report. So, invite the staff to present on this item.
Good afternoon, committee members, Christina Team, Fiscal Services Officer. Today, we're presenting the audit results for the independent financial audit for Measure Q and Measure T for fiscal year ending June 30th, 2024. As required by the expenditure plan, the role of the committee is to 1, review the expenditure annually to make sure that they conform to the plan. 2 is to submit an oversight report. And the financial audit report is one of the key components that assists the committee in providing that review. Typical of any financial audit, the report consists of the independent auditor's report, the balance sheet, and the statement of revenues, expenditures, and changes in fund balance, and the accompanying notes. And the balance sheet is on page 4 of the audit report, which shows the available ending fund balance for Q and T. The statement of revenues and expenditures on page 5 of the audit report details the revenues that we received, including any interest as well as reimbursements and grants that we leverage against our project. And here with us on Zoom today is a representative from our auditor's office, Alex Holm of Moss, Levy and Hartline. And Alex will briefly discuss the audit standards and the approach that they took and present the audit results. And with that, I'll hand it over to Alex, who's calling in remotely.
Hi, can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Perfect. Hi, my name is Alex Hom from Moss, Levy and Hartsheim, and we gave the Measure Q and Measure T fund an unmodified clean opinion. No significant findings. The way we approach the audit is usually how we would approach any other audit, where we would look at the controls of essentially, in this case, it's the fund, but it's essentially the same as the authorities. We will look at the 25 transactions from the kind of the check writing process. We will look at payroll transactions to make sure they're properly recorded, and then we will look at 25 what we call high risk disbursements, so items for the credit card, etc., like that. And then on top of that, we would, as part of the audit process, we will look at the balance sheet to make sure those accounts are accurately recorded. As I said, there was no significant findings. And as always, Justina and her staff are a joy to work with. They make my life pretty easy. Any questions regarding the audit or the audit process in general?
I'm sorry, we're having a technical difficulty.
Yeah.
Can't find the audit.
This is between the audits.
This is the,
Balance sheet.
Balance sheet?
Yes.
The audit report though, is their written report. Where's that?
It's their written report.
That's what I thought.
It'll be in the
Full-
beginning.
Well, it's just a couple of pages.
Is it this we're talking about?
It says, it has their letterhead on it, right?
Yeah, which is
Right here.
attached with the.
Oh, there.
There it is. Okay, that's what you, okay. Now I understand what you
Oh.
want. Okay, sorry, okay, we're back.
Okay.
So-
Um,
Okay. Is this the question time? I'm sorry. Yep.
Yes.
So does anyone have any questions?
Where's the big fat packet?
And-
Jeff?
This is
Yeah.
just on the.
I was wondering, when you look at a check, what do you look for when you look at a check that the authority's written?
Essentially just making sure the proper approvals are given, and then making sure, the check name matched up with the invoice, making sure if it's like goods or services, that it is, the the delivery address is actually the authority's address, or anything that, to the site or to the authority's office. Also making sure it made into the general ledger through Acumatica. And then, yeah, and making sure it cleared the bank statement too.
So what approvals do you see? For that
Uh,
check?
It's usually through either the normal process through the supervisors and eventually making its way through Acumatica, the approval process through there, which is the internal accounting system there.
Thank you.
I have a question. Was there any additional work or complexity to the audit? It would have probably been over the last couple of years as we transition away from Measure Q to Measure T.
No, it kind of pretty much just like it rolls over. They kept it separate, so it made it pretty easy, because in the way
Oh.
they have in their accounting system, they have a Measure Q section and they have a Measure T section. So they pretty much kept whatever they got through Measure Q in Measure Q and spent it through there, and then when Measure T came into full effect, Measure T was completely separate. So it's a pretty smooth transition, I
Okay,
would say.
All right, thank you.
And to the chair, just to add to Alex, following up on Jeff's question regarding internal control. So the approvals are mapped out in the system, in the accounting system, Acumatica, according to the cash management policies. We just published it on our website. And for Andrea, the expenditure plan, it also outlines it's required by the authority to not commingle funds
Right.
with others. So it's also kept separately in Acumatica, and that's how we're also tracking. So
Okay, great.
it's easier for the auditor. That was why kind of Alex's evaluation of how it's easier to review is because we do manage the funds separately.
Is that it? Is more questions? Are there any questions from the public?
I'm good.
Thank you,
Okay.
Alex.
All right, thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, we can move on to,
The second part of this presentation. Oh, let's switch to a PowerPoint. We're still on item number 3.
yes,
Right. Okay, so the second, so on December 12th of 2024, the board received the annual expenditure status, expenditure plan status report for fiscal year 23-24 as part of the reporting requirement in the expenditure plan of Q and T. And today we're presenting a copy of the status report as a supplemental item to the independent financial audit, as previously presented by staff and auditor for the committee to conduct an independent review of the revenues and expenditures taken from charged to QNT. And so I just want to kind of, give a little refresher and some statistics about the financials. Okay. So I'll quickly go over each section of the report. Section 1 typically deals with the numbers. It's taken from the audit report as well. And it includes the narrative of the budget and work plan development process, the audit process and finding. You'll see some charts that's broken down by expense categories so that you can match it to the project detail pages in the report. And, each of the project page shows how much we would have spent toward that project under measure Q and under measure T. But just a quick summary. So we no longer bring in money for measure Q. It's been replaced by measure T. Measure T brings in about 8 million each fiscal year. In terms of the expenditures, we do have carryover from measure Q. Basically, that's money, the revenues that we've accumulated over the years that it was active that we have not spent. And we're basically drawing down from it currently. So in 23-24, we drew down about 2.2 million for our projects, as well as paying out some grantees that were awarded through the Measure Q Urban Grant Program. So they're multi-year projects that the grantees had applied for and was awarded, and they're basically just still kind of getting disbursements for it. The bulk of our spending does come from Measure T, considering it's the active fund right now. We recorded about 5 million in expenditures for the year, which is below our approved budget as well as below our revenue. So we did end up with a little bit of surplus that we will be carrying over in subsequent years. Just kind of for the committee to understand, our expenditures sometimes ebb and flow because acquisitions, for example, the nature of it doesn't just come every single year, on a regular stream flow. So sometimes 1 year you would see expenditures, like for example, 23-24, where expenditures are below what we received, or less than what we received for our revenues. But then you might also see another year where it would just be over what we received. And that's when we dip into our carryover and use that. So yeah, for this year, 5 million out of the 8 million was expended. Any questions?
Yeah.
Yes.
So as I went through the report, I saw, I guess it's revenue and then actuals,
Mhm.
and there's, it's not the same.
Mhm.
So you can carry over things, amounts of money they haven't spent over into the next year.
Yes.
And then, so do you estimate like a cost of completion are you constantly, for instance, on each project, I don't know what level, are you constantly estimating cost of completion of each project? You might see your actuals climbing over your budgets. And how are you keeping an eye on that?
Sure.
Yeah.
So we have a work plan tracker that we report to the board on a quarterly basis.
Okay.
So that usually is more of a milestone completion that we report, the
Okay.
project managers report. But then in our quarterly financials, I'm also tracking on a per project basis, the actuals against the budgeted of the project
Mhm.
at the project level. And then at completion, we run a complete report to kind of review and see how we did. So then we are tracking that on a regular basis.
Are you allowed to take overruns or underruns on a project and move them to another?
Yes.
Okay.
Oh, okay, good.
Yeah, that's
So basically what it is our typical process is any underruns basically just like recoups back into like the coffers, like the OSAs, the authorities main bucket.
Mhm.
But it still remains in Measure T. So it's only for like if we're for the example of Measure T.
Yeah.
Like if project A, B, and C are all funded by Measure T. The thing is A, B, and C are being tracked separately. Any underruns would just kind of recoup back into like the general pot of Measure T for projects X, Y, and Z, for future projects of X, Y, and
You
Z.
can reallocate.
Correct.
And then, so, I mean, I imagine it's you who might talk to the project managers and operations. Like, I see an issue,
Mhm.
where we're overspending and we've got budget plans that are, how does the OSA manage that? Do they say, we've got to slow down on this project, or we've got to maybe decrease the scope of work?
So
Is that,
it's multiple factors.
Mhm.
In my experience in the past, it has happened where it was a change in scope. Sometimes it just might be an allocation that we do have to fund because supplies, the cost of construction might have increased. So there potentially there's no room for a change of scope.
Mhm.
And then we would just have to fund a little bit more. That or either we might try to leverage our funds and seek additional outside funding. So there's different solutions depending on what fits the project, I would say.
I believe that COVID had some challenges that were,
For supply chain,
Yeah.
construction, that's it. And again, it goes back to like a case by case basis,
Mhm.
project by project basis.
And from a process point, there is the opportunity to go back to the board for a budget amendment
Mhm.
to call out that now anticipated overage or additional costs, like Justina said, kind of justifying the situational dynamics that are making us have that higher cost.
I have a more general question, a higher level question. Let's say that we lost Justina. It's your.
Excuse me.
Somebody's gonna have to find her.
She wandered off the trail. It's never seen again.
I promise.
Your processes, how are they documented and stored, and how could they be rejuvenated in another person?
Yeah. So I know for Elizabeth, our department, she thrives on needing cross training.
Uh-huh.
So there's a parts of that. Then what happens is you guys haven't met, but we actually have Jigna Shaw. She's our new staff accountant.
Hi.
Sorry, I did not introduce you. But what happens is this was actually a great time as I was onboarding her. It gave me a chance to refresh a lot of our processes and how to like
Mhm.
documentation.
Mhm.
So like one is she's been rewriting or taking notes on how updating But another thing is I've been adding on videos too. So like when I'm doing something in active management to show her, I'm recording it
Oh, okay.
as well and sending it to her. So we're kind of, there's a little bit of, there is how-to and documentation that exists, but then quite honestly, it needed a little bit of an update. Because sometimes we're muscle memory, it's very, when we're already doing it, we know it like the back of our hand kind of thing. But then now it's given me a chance to actually revisit that and update it as well. And then we'll kind of incorporate this into a recurring thing. But yes, if I do wander off a trail, there is documentation somewhere.
The work can be done, but the
Yes.
presentation reports might not be quite as aesthetically pleased with that.
That's
So we just
Yeah, and thanks much for this. I look at these reports and I mean, even I can kind of understand it. So, I appreciate that. And I know that takes some personal initiative and, thank you very much for doing that.
That's a great question, Jim. It's a really good question.
Can I add to the
Oh.
chair, if you don't mind?
Certainly.
The committee may remember that Justina was out on leave at the
Yes.
end of,
Uh-huh.
in parts of 2024. The years are kind of a blur.
Everything
Late
falls apart.
23, late 23.
Yeah,
to
into
early
2024.
That's right.
And we did actually have our staff accountant at the time, who Jigna has now replaced, stand in to do some of the work. And I think anytime you can shake things up a little bit and process, it does bring to light, yes, it's time to refresh our processes.
Mhm.
We have them, they could be better. And so onboarding Jigna has really given us that opportunity to sharpen those. But to your point, for succession planning and just continuity, we have actually experienced Justina being lost off trail, and we survived, and it wasn't fun. So we are up in our game.
Yeah, and thanks for, one of the things that, and I don't know if it was expressed or should have been expressed, but so often, and, I've lost people when they have a child and, everyone says, I'm coming back. And, you've been doing a great job and, that was a fear. And I don't work here, right? So anyway, I'm glad you're back and
Thank you.
thanks again. Are there any other questions?
Yeah, quick comment. I worked a lot of time in asset management, physical asset management, where we take care of physical assets and do PMs and replacement and all that. And I found that taking care of intellectual assets was analogous to that. And intellectual assets require, review and maintenance and all that kind of stuff. And I've been in situations where we lost those processes and it's expensive to redevelop them. And you also face a dip in, output. And so anyway.
So, yeah, thanks, Jeff.
Now they're not gonna let me go outside.
No,
See the ankle
tape it,
bracelet.
a GPS tracker to your head or something. Okay, so, any,
But
Are
is
there-
that all of the presentation?
No,
Yeah.
no, but just number wise, like any questions on the audit, the expenditures, that kind of thing, because I'll go into a little bit of like statistics of the project status. Next slide. Yeah. Okay, so just some statistics. If the committee recalls, the expenditure plans are very similar. But both Q and T are eligible to cover expenditures that are kind of grouped into four groups. Expenditure plan category number 1 typically involves conservation, land acquisitions, just protecting working lands. So our work that has kind of like, related to that kind of would fall into the expenditure plan number 1. Expenditure plan category number 2 is typically about water resources. So a lot of restoration projects fall under this category. And then expenditure plan 3, you can see that's our biggest one. That covers basically opening and maintaining open space preserves, providing environmental education, as well as just connecting people to nature, as well as just regular maintenance of the land that has to, preventing wildfires, floods, etc. So a lot of field operations and natural resources work. And then the last category would be the grant program, the urban grant program. So while that has more of an administrative feel of it with staff managing the program and the grantees and disbursements, those aren't our projects, but those are the dollar amounts that we disperse, the number of projects that we're tracking. Those are the grantees projects.
Yeah, so when you do an urban grant, I'm just curious, Campbell, is, I live in Campbell and
Yes, yes.
we get a lot of them.
Yeah.
So how do you oversee how they manage the money they give you? Do you have any say in it, or do they have to present a plan and come back periodically and say, this is what we're doing?
Yes, so during the cycle, when we solicit grants, they do propose a budget, you know, it's an application. Then of course, there's also a grant agreement that
Right.
outlines what they agree to meet and then for how much that we're awarding it to. And then we also have a grant management software that the grants team also has some kind of like report in to seek reimbursements. They have to provide receipts, and it's some of the documentation the committee has reviewed before
Yes,
as
yeah,
well.
I remember that.
Then we also, our grants team also does site visits periodically. Like there's certain milestones that they might do site visits, and then at the end, depending on the type of project, we also get signage out there that kind of helps market.
Okay,
So there is a beginning to end spectrum of that process.
okay.
I'm not like, you know, knee deep in it. Our grants team is much more of a subject matter expert as I am, but how it involves accounting is that they submit the disbursement request to us and we process it and we cut the check. But they do the review.
I think the key component there is that all of our grant awards are reimbursement based. We're not just giving funds up front. And
Okay.
so that's.
Okay,
forces,
so you don't give them a blank check and then they.
So that forces reporting and
forces
accountability.
it. Got it. Okay.
And then again, the site visits and all that, those are like little checks in between.
Okay.
Even though they might have submitted receipts and stuff like that, but then we go out and. see
Go
that.
physically look at it.
Yes.
Okay, got it.
And so, yeah, so the first pie chart is kind of giving a feel of the breakout of the type of projects, number of projects that are in each category. And then the middle chart is kind of like by status. We have a bit of program/projects where it's always constantly ongoing that we're tracking. For example, in expenditure plan 3, one of the biggest type of expenses is maintaining the preserves. So that's technically an ongoing thing. It doesn't just like, we don't close up, that project number that we're tracking. So it's continuous. So it kind of goes over the ongoing category. And then I did list out in the report the reasons why certain projects might be on hold. Either staffing, funding, certain reasons. And then we had a few completed. We had tracked. For last fiscal year, we tracked 53 projects and 23 urban grants. And of the 53, 3 were completed before the year end. With all the milestones that we declared. And then the rest were, on track to what was proposed for the end date. And then the last pie chart is not by the number of projects, but where the money is spent. So about a little bit more than half is spent just maintaining, keeping preserve, connecting people to nature. And then about a quarter of it would be the conservation acquisitions related work. And then the remaining kind of some restoration projects of the thin sliver in terms. One of the reasons why the second expenditure plan is we've had a pretty good track record for a lot of our restoration projects to be leveraged with grants, outside funding. So we don't spend a lot of our dollars toward that. And so that's, hence the 7 projects, but only 2% of the expenditures to be used. And then the remaining be the disbursements, about 800K given out, dispersed during the fiscal year. So just kind of some stats. But if there's any specific questions inside, I can try my best to respond for the actual status report itself. Any other questions? Otherwise, that does wrap up this item thing.
Any questions from the committee?
Oh, I don't know. I'm curious about some metrics that you might have, like unit costs of, or things that you can track and compare on an ongoing basis to see if there's any significant change in or benchmarking.
So I don't personally track unit costs at my level. It's a bit more toward the project managers and department managers when they're approving expenses. Like, I'll just throw an example out there, if Derek Newman, our field operations manager, his staff is requesting for lumber for or T-posts for fence. The thing is, as he's approving the PO, he can kind of get a sense of, wait, the last time I approved this, it was less than or more than. So he kind of gets a little bit more of the day-to-day and the fluctuations, as well as reviewing the unit cost. I am not tracking unit costs.
And there's
at that level.
no report that shows those kinds of things.
No specific report. I mean, I can run the report of how much T-post has cost us over the years, but it would also involve Derek to kind of be like, oh, it was high this year because we did
Yeah,
more fencing projects or
even bigger scale, it was a unit cost per site,
yeah.
that for operations, and why is this site costing us 4 times what
So
that
we
site?
have the data,
Yeah,
but the reports would be based on a department manager if they want to kind of assess the budget and plan for their actuals.
stupid.
More questions?
I have some questions.
Yes.
So I'm curious, it seems like the cities are pushing to allow parcels to be divided, like some are now starting to allow ADU parcels to be sold separately from the main parcel, and then others, to build like duplexes and quadplexes. Does each of those create a new parcel for the authority? I'm just curious.
I don't know that I would know that. I would rely on our engineers.
Yes.
Who generate the engineers report to track that. But I do I do believe if it gets right, if it gets a unique parcel number from the county, then it would make its way into our engineers report, which would factor into the parcels that are taxed. But that's kind of if it had a new parcel number, then yes, it would. If it didn't, and so I guess in that case, it's on the property owner to be dotting their T's, dotting their I's and crossing their T's. To be going through the right processes.
That's an interesting question.
Yeah.
There's separate parcel numbers when you do it. My friend just did this, so he built an ADU by his house, so they are separate parcel numbers. They are separately taxed.
Interesting.
Could he potentially sell the
Yes,
second
yeah.
one? Okay, yeah, that's what I was
Yeah,
curious
so it
about.
would be truly making that subdivision.
Yeah.
parcel.
And just some history on our engineer. So what happens is they pull the tax roll from the county. So again, it again goes back to how the county's presenting it. If they're
Yeah.
giving distinct APN numbers, then yes. Then they would then do the calculations and reporting and submit, and I just wait for the money to.
Right.
But obviously, I filled out the form, we cross-checked how much we were expecting based on what they report on the tax roll, but yeah.
Right.
so-
Because that would be the only way that the authority would start making more money is if there's more units, because it's a flat fee per year.
Yes.
But as
that's right.
inflation goes up, that money goes down.
Yes.
Mm,
So that, yeah.
Unless we can pull Gilroy in. I have a couple questions, and let me pull it up because they're from pages, so I pull up the page so I can. The page number is a lot better.
Those items are for the next.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Oh, yeah, those are for our
Report
picking,
item.
Okay,
picking fun stuff.
I have to do the same thing. which I brought.
Except that I might need the small number and not the PDF of the packet number.
She linked them to
You can
the
take your
document.
fraction.
So they were.
Oh, On page, I'm actually at table 5, which is page 17.
Yes.
And that was the Coyote Valley Conservation Areas Master Plan. And is that just for the plan itself, like the documented plan, or is there anything else in that? Because it was the largest item.
I'm not sure that the project only produces a plan. I know that the first deliverable in last fiscal or recently was a conditions report of basically taking an inventory of what's out there. But
I guess going to the project number, I hadn't thought to do this at the
Yeah.
time, so I'm now on the project number. Master version plan. And it's like, most of it's outside services. I'm curious, like, what is that? And why is it so bundled and not like broken down? Almost everything else was much more broken down. So I'm
yeah, because
curious.
we basically have an outside
39.
consultant for a long range plan, planning services.
That's your version plan. An existing conditions summary. So it just sounds like a plan.
Correct.
And I'm just kind of curious why the plan is so expensive. Because it's, this year was 335,000, but it's looking like close to $1 million total so far. So why was that so expensive?
Well, I can do my best to answer on behalf of our long range planning department, if you've got more, or if you want to let me attempt to run with it.
You can attempt it because I don't know if I can answer the why because I'm not the planner.
Yeah.
It's not my expertise. But the realm of it is that it's a large area. And it's what we want to kind of, it's like what I understand it is the document that will document what we plan to do, how we're gonna restore, how we're, the public access for it, et cetera.
Yeah, it is creating the roadmap for restoration, public access. It's engaging with our other governmental partners around even transportation to the region for future public access. And so the consultants to navigate that are robust and have a lot of different expertise, and that does add up quickly. But that said, I do believe we are kind of over the hump of a lot of the preliminary data gathering to create the plan. And we'll, over the next few years, start seeing some of the tangible deliverables coming to fruition. But because it also is not just the Laguna Seca property at, Bailey and St. Teresa, it's pretty expansive, the whole region that it's covering. It's a lot of land, a lot of considerations to be analyzed and really taken into account.
I am curious because I can't tell like how much of the
And these
total.
consultants are just not cheap
Oh, yes.
consultants.
I'm just curious, how do you know? Oh, I see. The total project cost is 3.7 million.
That's the
dollars.
anticipated
It's a
total cost.
to-date project.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's a lot.
It is.
But
I know that there's been some activities around, like, the authority has put on activities around just generally like the Coyote Valley, like specific public outreach. Is this part of what's being presented in the outreach? This is the plan
Getting feedback from the public
on this plan?
on these components, yeah.
and so this project here, you might hear it as CV Camp.
Right.
I don't know if it rings a bell or anything like that.
Oh,
Okay.
Yeah,
is that-
Coyote
maybe,
Valley.
because I think if we heard it, we would have thought it was one of the pieces of property like Tilton Ranch, CV camp.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Right.
CV camp really is like
Yeah,
all of that. Like it's from Santa Teresa County Park all the way down to our Coyote Valley Open Space Preserve as
Yeah.
is.
that
And
makes,
so it's agricultural land, it's potential future recreation land.
okay,
It's,
that does make sense.
yeah, it's not just 40 little acres or something.
All right, so another question, this is in a couple different places, it's Coyote Ridge, Mayan Oyakima is being referred to as Coyote Ridge still. That just irks me because to me, it gives people an out, because I have friends and they'll say, well, it's, have you been to Mayan Oyakima? And I'm like, oh, what is that? That's so too hard to say. Oh, you mean Coyote Ridge? And I want to be able to say, no, the name is Mayan Oyakima. Just, that's it.
The full
Can
name
we get
is
rid of?
Mayanayakma Coyote Ridge though.
But in this document, it's many places listed as just Coyote Ridge.
Okay.
Or Coyote Ridge first.
Yeah.
So if you're going to do that, at least put my in there. That's my personal request. Yeah. Nothing really to do with the oversight committee. And then I'm on page 25. It's page numbers.
The grants.
Yeah. And one of the grants that was very expensive was it was City of San Jose, Havana Midfield at 250,000. And I'm wondering, was that why is that? That seems like a very big number. What was unusual about that, number? What was it unusual about that to justify, like?
That's why I picked up this page.
So through the chair, I don't have the answer for specific grants. I would have to inquire with the grants team. I also don't know how much that grant was actually awarded for, whether it's that full 250 and it could be that the city has cash flow and they did the project in whole and then after reimbursement in whole instead of like milestone disbursements. I don't know enough about the specific.
This was the funding dispersed, whereas someone else who only got 9,000 might actually have gotten 100,000 overall. But this was
Yeah, like their grant might have been 100K award, but then they're asking for a disbursement of 9,000 during the fiscal year. So again, this also kind of the column on page 2 is only for the fiscal year, so it's a
Right.
fiscal year snapshot.
Yeah.
So I would have to look deeper into that specific grant. What was the award amount? Is that 250 the whole entire award? Is that just one big disbursement? Let's say, yeah.
And we don't, you have the really detailed projects for the first 3,
Yes.
but they don't have it for the grants. I thought it used to have grants in there too. We never did the grants.
Because again, it's not for projects, so I don't have reporting of that grant.
Okay. So does anyone know? I'm just curious
It's a
what it
new,
is.
it's a new park in looks like it's downtown.
The San Jose one?
Yeah,
Okay.
Havana Midfield, near the train station.
Good. Okay, and so that's part of what we're reimbursing for part of that.
Mhm.
Okay, that makes sense. Okay, then I'm gonna jump all the way. So I'm gonna jump all the way down to page 95, but I think it was the same question. Yeah, so I can't find that in here. Yeah, I couldn't. And there's a city of San Jose on page 96, but it's for $50,000.
And there's one more here for 100,000. Yeah, in that middle section.
Oh, yeah, next.
Just says City of San Jose,
The city of San Jose for 30.
right here. 30, I read it wrong.
Yeah,
Yeah,
30,
you're right,
yeah.
you got it.
So. Yes, G006. G000006.
Oh, it's the Luna. I do think that is it.
Which one is it?
Yeah. I believe it's listed on the report on page 95 as Latinos United for New America Luna.
Okay.
And that was the nonprofit partner to the city of San Jose.
Oh, there it is. Okay.
Disbursements actually went to the city of San Jose.
Okay.
Which ties to
Yeah.
that parks.
Okay. That probably needs to be documented correctly somehow. One
Thank you
place
for
or
pointing
the
out the
other.
clarity.
Yeah. Okay, and then my last particular point on this is online, because I do it all online. Basically, all the online links are not working right. Like, I'd click on something and it would imply it was going to take me to a document, and it just took me to that big document repository, but not to the document. And some links went to the wrong places and some links went nowhere
Within our new website.
within the online version of this.
Mhm.
And so I just wondered if anyone could go and check all the
sorry.
links.
On the website, or you need the bookmark in the PDF?
No, online. Like when I go online, you can send me the link, right, to the online version. And that's what I'm looking in right now. So I'm on, the, it's a PDF, but it opens in your browser.
Uh-huh.
And a lot, if not all of the links just aren't working right. I kind of gave up after a while because I kept trying to press more.
Oh, this report was originally published in November of 2024. And our new website quietly launched in December of 2024. And so the links are in fact broken. Thank you for calling.
But
that
can
out.
they update the document with just to fix the links?
Absolutely. Yeah, we'll have to make that.
It was very frustrating.
No, thank you. I
Yeah,
think
yeah.
It's just one of those, as you're launching the new website, you don't think about.
Yeah, and I didn't connect that they broke mine.
Those mean new website people.
This happens to me all the time.
Yeah.
I do post stuff online all the time, and that's exactly what happens. And, sometimes there's even a way the web page person sometimes can just go find the links and not have to manually.
We did very much though change the document library structure.
Yeah.
And so it'll really be quite a repointing exercise, but.
Okay,
it's done, yeah.
okay, yeah, thank you. That was it for me.
Are there any other questions from the committee?
Now I gotta find it again. It was the unauthorized vehicle repair. I was astonished at it, and it's on delay, but so if somebody goes, this damage, I guess this bridge got damaged, and somebody drove, or somebody's driving in there, and they're not supposed to be there. Is there a way to get the money from them for any of this damage? Is there legal options?
Wow.
Yeah.
I thought that was
$1,000.
So
It's small, but it was cute, but I could see that could grow, right?
it could grow. And so the land itself is not insured on our part. Infrastructures can be, but they carry quite large deductibles that would have exceeded the $7,000. So in this case, it made sense to pay for that. The individual was dealt with by law enforcement and did not have any. It was a stolen vehicle joyride situation. There was no insurance or any of that. So unfortunately, it really did leave it on us. And in the face of, again, the $7,000, well, yes, large, and who wants to be paying that for somebody else's bad behavior?
Yeah,
Was still better than pursuing it through insurance or
Okay.
something like that.
so this is a one-off. This isn't something.
No, this was a total one-off. Somebody.
One car was
One,
$7,000.
yeah, because
Because there was damage to the, it was to the ground itself, but also to some bridge abutment that required some inspection and
so you're having something like right now, like repairing the bridge or getting it?
it's now 100% complete. That
Okay.
$7,000 was the full.
Okay.
Repair.
So it was late as of June 30th,
Mhm.
but
yes.
we're now in
Yeah.
the fiscal year, it has been resolved. I
Okay.
think we were waiting for the bridge part.
Yeah,
That was what it
we
was.
had,
Okay, yeah, that was in the report. Okay,
Yeah.
yeah, I was just curious. I don't know. What is this? Just curious more than anything else. This is not an ongoing thing.
Nope.
it was truly a one-time event, and based on the circumstances, that was.
Okay. Interesting. Okay. And then the only other question I had, because this is watching this with great interest, is the Tilton Ranch. Is there some still delay going on with the allocation of the house, the repairs? Is it gonna ever? I don't know. What's the ranch house gonna be used for?
That,
Don't have an answer to that question, for long term, but we did have some work done on the house itself. That project for the seismic strengthening,
Right.
as well as, the electrical improvements to bring it to code. The electrical is done. I think as of June 30th, the seismic was not completed, but, it's completed by now. So that's the status of those, the house
The
itself.
house itself,
Yes.
right.
Plans for it, I do not have
We
enough.
haven't gone through a planning
Yeah.
process for that
That's
property yet.
what I thought,
Yeah.
okay. Because I know there was some speculation making it an educational area, for example. You know, and is the plan still to take Tilden, the land itself and hook it back into Coyote Valley? Is there gonna be a?
I think we'll have to wait and see how all of that pans out. We don't have the, I don't know the status of the
Mhm,
planning
mhm.
on that particular use.
Mhm.
So I couldn't answer that question for
Okay,
you.
okay.
Yeah.
It's the same thing also now because you have the acquisition out of Rancho. That extension, my understanding is gonna be where that new bridge that's a bridge, by the way. Wow.
Yeah. Isn't that beautiful?
That is a bridge. I was like, whoa, what are you gonna drive over this, a tank? And I like the interpretive area that you have there, for the wheelchair access, but there's plans to develop now trails up above that. Is that correct?
I think that's right. But again, it's a process and,
You're starting to allocate
It's-
money for that.
right. And it certainly will be research as to what's possible.
And is that including the Blair Ranch? Is that what's that called there?
So I think you'll see on our new work plan that we're developing, in fact, it's on actually this current work plan, for trail work at Blair.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, more to come.
Yeah.
Something the expenditure committee want me to look into first.
Up close and personal.
Personal.
I can see your next outing will be a hike.
If we can put you though to page 88 in the report, and that is the Tilton compound.
Yeah, that was kind of what I was.
That is the project status as of June 30, 2024.
Okay.
And
Oh,
so
okay, you
based
have
on
it
what they're
there.
seeing there,
Yes.
it's really still mostly, staff time and kind
Mhm.
of some very preliminary work.
Okay, right.
So we are tracking it, but
But you
I
have
think
that-
But the project
it's a little
manager
too
would have a
early,
better
yeah, and
forecast.
for us to know. And then similarly,
There was the Tilton complex.
the
Homes.
backcountry, the Blair one is
Mhm.
another project that's master planning that is also,
Rancho, page 82.
Yeah.
Is what'll connect the exploration, those additional
That's right.
trails.
Yeah, there it is. That's what I saw. Okay.
So they're both in here being tracked. We'll
Yes.
see more progress as
Excellent.
time moves.
Just.
We can always pick one of those to.
I probably will, because I hike both Coyote and Rancho.
Get your pen ready for.
Yeah.
Also, look myself, because I missed the bridge opening ceremony the day before, but I came the next day, so did you go?
No, I missed it too.
Yeah,
I have another, are you done?
I'm done.
I have another set of comments that aren't directly related to the oversight, to the report, but it kind of fell out of that whole link problem because I ended up on the website trying to find stuff. And I want to say, I'm really happy on the new website because for several years, I have not liked that, like, details of Measure Q and Measure T, like the expenditure plan was hard to find. And I really like that now, like the first page, it says funding, like, you're going to get the funding information. That's what you're looking for. So I do really like that. But then as I was kind of going around, I realized that while it mentions the expenditure plan oversight committee, it does not mention the report. And the report is not linked. So underneath it has links to audit documents and financial documents. Let's see, I can't remember what's in financial, it's the work plan. And the financial documents kind of includes the financial audit. So I don't know if it's something different, but anyway, no place does it mention or link to the oversight committee report.
And that would be your commentary, this committee's report out at the end of the year. Got it.
I really feel it should be there because that's a big part of the transparency of the whole process. So I didn't know if someone had overlooked that. Yeah, so maybe at the same time can look into that.
Yeah.
And I also just want to comment because I know that people who were here long before us put a lot of commentary into this document and the way that it's broken out by the projects, all of the information is phenomenal. That's why there's not very many like questions about how or why. It's more about like the details because it is really, really well done. So that's my only other comment.
Yeah, comments or questions? Are there any questions from the public?
No,
John Q.
Soon to be no longer.
Uh-huh. All right. Okay, let's go to information reports.
No,
Oh, we got one more.
One more item.
Oh,
this is a big thing.
I'm sorry.
Nice.
So the presentation of tasks for annual expenditure plan oversight report. And I guess staff, Justina?
Yes. So as a committee, you may recall, you just received the audit from the auditors. You received the status report from staff that the board had received and approved. So kind of like, in those two items being used for your review, and to help kind of facilitate your oversight report to the board, the writing of it. I believe the committee has always kind of opted in for a sampling audit of our transactions. And so what you have in your packet today is a report or like just basically an export from our Academic accounting system that staff had categorized into the categories that the committee has kind of requested. And then, I have some recommendations, but it's really up to the committee on what transactions that you may want to collect to review in detail. The committee will be receiving a binder and they'll have screenshots of, for example, just exactly what the auditor rate looks like. You'll get screenshots of the approvals and schematics, so you'll get a PO history. You'll get the invoice itself. You'll get any contracts, board reports and board resolutions showing that the board approved the different transactions, et cetera. And that would also kind of, so these transactions or those documentation will stem from what the committee is selecting today to sample. And this changed a little bit from previous year. Based on the recommendations from last year, we continue to have a category that has to do with expenditures related to land acquisitions. And another category would be any open space land improvement, capital improvements. And then the third category, the third bucket is any expenditures related to the maintenance and operations of open space reserves. And then the last one would be grant disbursements. So in its previous life, it was any type of expenditures over 1,000. You've swapped that out and just want to look at disbursements from the urban grant program.
Yeah.
Those are the 4 categories. And then we've added in for the last 2 years, payroll review as well. So there's an export of how much the cost of labor, payroll and benefits per, based on, separated out by project. So you can kind of see which projects you want to look at in detail so that we get time cards, get the export for how many hours, you can correlate it with the employee title, et cetera. And so what you have in front of you, the packet, a quick summary, that was kind of what I repeated. You saw the audit report, total expenditures about 7.2, which was a 5 from measure P, 2.2 from measure Q. That was recorded. And so this packet here has a list of transactions totaling about 6.8 or a little bit more than 93%. Because what happens is anything that fell out of those 4 categories summed up to about 467K. Didn't get included in this list.
Okay, all right, I see.
So they're not acquisition related. They're not capital improvement related. They're not maintenance operations of the preserves related, nor are they a grant. So typically they would be like administrative.
Oh, is the total list on the back, on the last page, or? Like the very, oh, those are the labor ones.
Yeah. So what happens is the report, there is on the lower left-hand corner, there's a little acquisition cost.
Yes.
There is. Yes. Grants, CIP. So CIP is a capital improvement cost for the one. The ops is the cost for anything related to. So these are all just hard costs, that they do not include transactions for labor. Then that last page that you see in the packet is basically all the payroll benefits sorted by project.
So
Oh, I
land
see.
acquisitions are labeled ACQ, grants are labeled grant,
Yes.
and then you said,
Capital improvement is CIP.
That's-
Those are like the open space land improvements.
okay.
And then the ops, the OPS one is the maintenance and operations of open space
Okay.
measures.
Yeah, and then the last ones are labor.
Yeah.
And the only thing I know, it says up to 9, but given that there's 4 of us, I would suggest we all take 2. Does that sound okay to you guys? Anyone wants to take more, but we don't have to do 9.
No,
Yeah.
you do not, you could do whatever
Yeah,
number, this is what staff is recommending,
Yeah.
because last year was 9.
Yeah,
The last year's makeup was 2, 2, 2, 2, and then 1 payroll. But I believe the feedback was the committee would be interested in reviewing more payroll. And then, just to kind of give you some insight, we were kind of light on acquisitions last fiscal year. So that was why the recommendation by staff was flipped around.
Yeah.
Where it's like, we don't have much to show for acquisitions.
Okay.
So it was just more almost like, would you be interested in doing 2 payrolls in lieu of like 1?
did we all do 3 last year?
I thought we did more than that.
Each?
Yeah, no,
No, there's no way we did more than 3. I don't even remember doing 3. I just wanted to. I can't.
I don't remember.
I thought it's at least 3.
I thought it was at least 3.
3 each.
Yeah.
Okay, so then 9 makes sense. Okay. Oh, yeah, it was 3. You're right. Okay.
Yeah.
So what we've done the last couple of years, honestly, we've all just picked what we want to do.
Mhm.
So why don't we all do that unless we pick the same ones? I will say, going forward, we might want to think about not having to print out. I think anything less than a couple $100, we don't necessarily need to print out, because I saw whole
Yep.
pages with like 25
Yes.
and.
So I think it's, again, maybe perhaps the committee in your oversight report, you can then kind of outline just those 4 categories, but anything over a certain amount, and then basically I run the report with those parameters.
That makes sense, yeah.
Do we want to, I guess, make a guideline to include at least one from EPC 1, 2, and 3? You know, so we
Got
don't totally skip one of the.
Sure. Typically, these categories here would kind of correlate to it. So expenditures related to land purchase and acquisitions would cover EPC 1.
Right, okay.
And then,
Yeah, right.
the open space, the land improvements and maintenance ones are typically in the 2 and 3, because a lot of the capital improvements are also restoration projects.
Okay.
So you would also cover EPC 2.
And then the
EPC
urban
3.
grants EC4.
Yes, and the grants would be EPC 4.
Okay. And now I'm interested in doing the labor again.
Good.
So, no, so, you know, I don't want to belittle, the handing out EPC 4, the handing out of grants and that's a low, that's gotta be low hour. It's not a minor job, but I don't think it's, you know, hundreds of hours.
Oh, you mean to pick a labor one? We don't need to pick a labor one from the
Right.
grant categories.
Right,
Uh,
yeah.
so that's a good point.
Uh-huh.
So like,
And so we.
I don't know that,
It
so for
would
the
not-
labor one, is it even?
It does not include that one because again, we don't track per grant project.
Right,
But
right.
we do track how much that staff time takes to administer the program
Okay,
and,
yeah, so.
And-
Because they run the show.
yeah, and that actually, falls under the administrative allowance bucket that the board approves.
Oh, okay.
And we don't track that separate, we track that separately from the project cost.
I'm thinking of like last year was Project 28 was the big one.
Yes.
And this year looks pretty big.
Yes, as we're wrapping up kind of thing, but if you want to, I mean, again, if the committee is open to some staff recommendations.
Please, what's the next?
Sure, so we actually, as Linda mentioned, we're at Rancho, the capital improvement for the bridge at Yagas Creek. P 36. That if that is of interest to the committee, that is one capital improvement project. And then as Andrea had mentioned, the other one that I would like to recommend is 250, which is CV Camp. That's the Coyote Valley Conservation Areas Master Plan.
Okay.
$266,000 of staff time.
Okay.
It's one of the biggest,
That's
bigger
big.
tickets of the payroll and benefits related. And you can kind of get a sense of how involved this master planning process is, because you're going to see quite a bit of names.
When was this initiated? Is it last?
CV Camp?
Whatever, yeah,
2020,
2020?
if not even earlier. We hired our project manager for it in 2020.
Okay,
That's my main milestone always.
so are we saying to do 2 or 3?
2 labor. I think we should do 2 labor.
Mhm.
I think you should do 1 and someone else should do 1. Because we need to start spreading it out.
That knowledge transfer thing.
Yeah, exactly.
Thank you for that, yeah.
So why don't you
could do
pick,
1.5, and you can help the other person.
yeah. Why don't you pick one of the labor ones you want to do?
Okay,
Do you want to do a labor one? I'll do it if you don't. Or if Jeff wants to.
Can I volunteer you this time?
Jeff, do you want a labor one? No, okay.
Go ahead.
I'll do it because we've worked together on this a little bit
Yeah,
already. So
and then you can try to transfer some of that
you
knowledge
you
over.
pick one that you want on the labor and I'll pick
Mhm.
the other one. And then everyone else just pick
over the
kind of 3
recommendation.
projects and I mean, I think we want to at least cover all the categories, but if we have a little bit more in one or the other, I think it's okay. It's,
Yeah.
the process is what's important. Havana Midfield Grant, I think I'm gonna pick that one.
So I think it hit,
Did I make it? Can we see it?
in the grants category, and it's actually the first line.
Yeah.
If I
Let's
could
see
take
that.
that.
I'm not gonna take a land acquisition, so if you guys want land
Let me
acquisition.
grab a land acquisition. So I can't talk today. Then let me go for an urban grant one too. Yeah. So is that okay?
Are we picking?
3.
We're gonna pick 3.
All right, just to confirm, is this still in discussion, or do you want the Havana one?
I think we're kind of all discussing
Okay,
and
then
then
I will,
we'll kind of
I
finalize once
won't
we
jot anything down.
hear what people want.
I think I'm gonna use this. I'd be interested in the, I'd like to take the Tilden.
Oh, yeah.
I'll take the Tilden Ranch acquisition
For labor or for?
for the acquisition.
Oh, but it might not have sorry, let me see if there's.
It has a little legal fine.
So what happens is, while that project might have been worked on, it could have staff time, but it might not have had like outside consultant like costs or.
Okay.
So,
Justina, can you direct?
yes,
And to what features they could be looking at
Yes.
for
Yeah,
them.
yeah, because right now I'm trying to go through
yeah,
all of this.
so for Linda, if you want to look at something that's related to acquisition, it starts on page 2.
Page 2.
Yeah, the very beginning,
Oh, okay, okay, hold on.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, I see it. Yeah, there's page after page, yeah.
No, it's only through page 5. There's not that many.
Okay.
yeah,
And some of them are way down here in like negative dollars,
yeah.
$9.18. You probably
Oh,
wanna
I
add
understand
that.
what you want me to do. Gotcha.
Yeah.
All right, I see what you want to do. So,
Again, we were We were light this year on acquisitions. A lot of them has to do with, legal services.
I see that.
As we kind of negotiate.
Spent $131 at Panera Bread to negotiate meeting with, negotiating meeting with
Oh,
both.
I see.
How many people were there?
But I have to look back at the expenditure.
These days, that could be two.
Yeah. You've got a nap.
lately.
You got a nap.
I've been to Panera.
You got egg salad, that's $40.
Let's skip that acquisition part. Is there, okay,
That would be up to committee if.
do you want to skip out acquisitions altogether since they're so light on?
What's the highest one?
If there is an appraisal that we did for in Coyote Valley, line 4,
That's like, yeah.
15,000.
Mhm.
That is if the committee is interested in reviewing.
Okay, I see. Yeah, I'll take that one. Okay, yeah, you can direct me to, that would get you one acquisition thing.
Yeah, here's the one acquisition.
Okay, so I'll take that. And I'm just gonna skip.
Justina,
Yes.
could you help me find the project 24? What page I would,
So it wouldn't,
that's a strategy one, and I,
yes, that project itself typically is just staff time. It does not have a lot of outside, like, fixed hard costs.
That's what.
okay. So it's just, that's what their labor thing?
Yeah, it might just be a labor thing. I would have to. pull-
Okay.
Okay, then,
Is it looking? Because it would be related to either acquisitions.
okay.
Yeah.
Would fall under that.
Oh, I see it right here.
Okay.
Oh, there was two.
The city is, there's two, yes, there you are.
But it typically,
Okay.
just to kind of get a sense of that project, it typically involves like strategy and kind of how to prioritize acquisition in Coyote Valley
I
area,
don't see it out.
like E24 itself. So it's a lot of staff
That's
time,
really good.
kind of planning and plotting.
Internal discussion.
Yes.
But not a lot of,
Yeah, but not a lot outside.
yeah.
Costs.
Let's look at this. Okay.
This one is CIP. Okay. Row 10. Sorry, your question, did you want this one or?
Yeah,
So-
that's-
Yeah, of course.
They may not have one on this year. but-
Well, they did, because it was for $35,000. The phone is.
Yep.
$20,000 disbursement. Those are the, is this in the order?
And then there's 2 of them, so you had the other one circled.
Then you got it, it's the same project, so.
Right there.
Oh, Valley Verde. I see. That's a good one. Why don't I do that one? That way you got a grant, right?
Well, I took a grant too.
You did too, good.
Two grants.
Two grants, good.
No, I would get-
41.
So grants are taken?
I think we have 2 grants, which is
Okay.
probably
You
enough.
doing it?
And that
Yeah.
one is 10,333. Is Creek Bridge.
It matters that much if we have like 3 in one category, though. I
I
think
don't think so
we
either.
just want to make sure we cover all the.
So Jeff's already submitted 2 CIP.
This CIP as well.
Yes, that's CIP as well. 81. And yours is 3 different projects, but just to confirm.
Yes.
So I would like that grant number. Is it number 2 is the Urban's open space grant to San Jose Havana Midfield. Grant 000006.
Yes.
Okay. And.
Grant, you gotta. I'll give you my summary. I just gotta find one more.
You picked the regular one.
See, you know, the San Jose State.
Yeah, I'm gonna do, 28, project 28 again.
Okay. I'm a little.
What?
a little intimidated about the $265,000.
Just suggest
That's the big one. That's the big one.
Anybody
That
can
seems
do
like
it.
a lot.
You can do it.
Anybody
Yeah.
can do it, Andrea, you can do it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that'd be a cinch for you.
That is a check of change.
Would anyone be mad if I only did two, if I do the CD camp one? Because I think it's gonna be a lot of work.
Yeah.
Guys
I'm
okay
not
with
bad.
that?
All right.
So I'm gonna take
Whatever.
P 250 for labor, and I'm gonna take the grant one, this grant 6, and those will be my two.
Okay, so roll and concentrate.
Yeah, we've got two labors.
Jeff's got his 3 all in
And
capital.
I'm trying to get one more here, so
Yeah, yeah,
I'm
no-
trying to find it out.
Sorry, it wasn't meant to rush, it was just more recapping.
Yes, no problem.
With her.
No pressure.
Where can I find P36? It's the,
It would be in a CIP costs, because it's a
What's
capital improvement.
I don't know. I was gonna ask him.
But
With
in
agriculture.
terms of what type of costs,
You learned
There's a
something
part
too.
on
Yeah, that's what I was-
41,
Dennis,
So,
by the way, your
page
Well,
21.
so we have put together over the years, I mean, it's evolved over, I don't know, 15 years.
But it sounds like Jeff already
Checklists that we
did that
use
line
to
item.
evaluate
but
these
line
transactions.
2 itself.
And so it's actually
Oh, did it?
somewhat straightforward, because we know what we have to look for.
Oh, I just have
And they
one.
generate all the paperwork.
oh, do you?
Yeah, we get the stack of paperwork for
Which
each
ones did you get?
transaction,
Okay.
and we go through and we check a lot of things like
3 CIP,
what the auditor
Yeah.
talked about too, like do the
They were,
names match?
okay.
Do the
project
things like
numbers
that.
were 18,
So
22,
It's
25.
less intimidating
This
than it
is,
might
this is,
sound,
project,
except we're pretty new at the
36.
labor side of it, so that one we haven't got it all dialed in
Okay,
yet.
so you're auditing the project.
If,
Yeah. So
if you
you'll be
wanna-
off the
I can pick it
hook,
up.
you won't have to do any of
But
these
you should-
this time.
But send the binder to her. You can look at it.
We can, let's finish the,
Yeah,
yeah.
the selection and then we can kind of review it.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
Ready to fire it off.
Yeah.
So, line item 4
In which category?
is, acquisitions.
Yes.
Yeah,
249.
it's,
Yes, I think, yeah, I have that one.
you have that one?
Yes.
Okay, I'll go ahead and take that one.
Sure.
Be interesting, legal. And then, we'll see, and then I went into, an urban grant. And this would be, the urban grant, where's your number at it? Oh, G 71,
What's the line number?
Uh,
7, line 7, yeah, that would be,
20,500.
yeah, for Valley Verde,
Yes.
okay. And I got a ops. So I get out of the grants and I did not do CIP costs. I think you had the CIPs. So that last one would be, ops cost P 202. That's the first one. Or second one.
Line 2,
Yeah, line 2,
Laura
which is
Brothers?
restores. Yes, that's,
16,750.
yes, that'll be me. That'll be different. Yeah, you know, your agricultural ones, and I'm curious about it because I know you work a lot with the local ranchers, farmers.
Like
That's
a
right.
well drilling.
We'll see. I'll find out. Okay, so that'll be my 3.
In summarizing that for me.
Yeah, I was gonna say, when all this complete.
So you,
Well, we have 9 right now. Do we want,
so I have 2. So how do we do that?
let me summarize. We have 1 acquisition, Linda. We have 3 CIP, all Jeff. We
Okay,
have 1 ops, Linda. We have 2 grants, 1 each,
okay,
and Andrea and Linda. Then we have 2 payroll, Dave and Andrea.
Yeah.
That's the current,
and so everybody has, we must, if we have
Dave
9,
only has one
Yeah.
payroll.
Yeah,
I have one payroll.
yes.
and
so you
do
pick
we know which
3.
one that is yet?
You picked 3, I picked 2.
Yeah,
Eight.
it's,
You picked 1 is. the
28,
Yeah.
project
Okay.
28.
P
And then
28.
we just need
Okay.
for 2.
Or they could take one of this, you could take one of the CIP off of
Yeah, it really depends how the committee wants to
Just-
doing it.
to David, so that those splits, because you have three
I was gonna say,
CIP.
maybe the chair would like to weigh in.
Yeah. What do you want to upload for me?
Yeah,
So I can,
Make it a good one.
the last one is 25, bridge project at the. I think it's on,
or,
327, it's on page 25.
yeah, on page 25, number 8, line 81.
What page number? Excuse me?
So 85 for CIP, page 25, because there might be multiple page 25s.
You got CIP.
They're not.
Just one.
Oh, that seismic retrofit. Is that-
Blair Ranch Pond.
The Blair Ranch Pond,
Oh, okay, gotcha.
the one that the committee went,
We went, and
Yes.
looked. yes, yes, I
Yes.
remember.
but this is engineering services for
Okay, gotcha.
that from.
Oh, I see it down here. Okay.
I think.
I'm not finding it. It's
Okay.
CIP and it's.
Rows 80.
Page 25.
row 81.
one. Yeah, okay.
Yeah. I'll be assigned to it.
So as of right now, Jeff, you have 2. Linda has 3. I have 2. And Dave has 2.
Yes.
Okay, so it kind of seems like we're settling on basically 2 each. Unless Jeff and Dave were just gonna pick another one.
Linda has 3.
I know, because I just want to let Linda know that if we settle on 2,
Got it.
she could probably feel the free to do 2 instead.
Only 2, 3, 2, 2.
That makes 9.
I'm good with 3. Okay, that's all right.
If you want, I'll do 1. You can do 4.
Yeah.
No, that's okay. Why no? I'll do 3.
All right, then no repick.
Well, yeah.
I don't mind doing 3. It's okay. I kind of like this part.
I know. Interesting.
It is, right.
You need the actual transactions or just.
Just
Okay, so to summarize, we picked 1 acquisition related, 3 CIP related, 1 ops related, 2 grants related, and 2 payroll reviews. And the breakout was 2 to Jeff, 3 assigned to Linda, 2 assigned to Andrea, and 2 assigned to Dave.
And we'll expect the binders later, obviously.
This afternoon sometime?
Yeah, you got that right there, yeah.
I don't have the, I don't have a sense of my calendar at the moment.
Yeah.
But I will, yeah.
Okay.
All right. So now we can turn the page to informational report.
Would you like to ask the public for any comments?
Are there any comments from? the public?
No.
So, and this part is really where we actually do homework and we look at documents.
Yeah.
And essentially, we're following threads through the reports for consistency.
Yeah.
And, we're not here to judge for, why you spent 10,000, why not 5, why not 15,000? It's just for consistency. Essentially, it's an audit.
Okay.
So,
And it's required by the measure, right? The measure requires a citizen oversight.
yes. So anyway, I think you'll get a better feel. It sounds a little bit confusing right now, but
I think I kind of get, so you got a project you're reviewing, you got a checklist, you're kind of, auditing the against the checklist or the audit.
and OSA provides a guidance. Essentially, you're saying,
Okay.
Does 1 equal 1? Yes. Does 2 equal 2? You're
You're not questioning the dollar, you're just making sure
Yeah.
it's within the audit.
it's
so.
like, it's multiple choice with 2 choices.
Yeah, I think
And there's, you can make comments.
Okay,
I think to make the process easier for subsequent reports.
Our responsibility is primarily about transparency.
Yeah.
So I think what we're really trying to make sure is they're really documenting everything. No one's spending any money without making clear what it was from, was it approved, it was all that done, yeah. And like he said, you should have spent 10 and you spent 20.
So then we can move on. Oh, thank you. So informational reports and staff or
If I can kick us off. So for the record, Lee Rauscher, Assistant General Manager, and I would like to take an opportunity here at the end of the meeting to introduce Elizabeth Loretto, our Administrative Operations Manager, who going forward is going to be the chief liaison to this committee. I'm going to stay on and support Elizabeth and the committee. But a year ago, Elizabeth was promoted from Human Resources Officer to Administrative Operations Manager and has been managing the department now for just coming up on a 1-year anniversary here pretty quick. And as we've in some cases, not so slowly transitioned things to Elizabeth. We tried not to completely overload her on day one with all of the committee's work. So this year, congratulations, Elizabeth. She will be, like I said, your chief liaison. Elizabeth has been with the agency 12 years?
I went 9.5.
9.5, sorry, I don't know where I got 12. It was the long weekend.
Yeah.
9.5 years, and actually she and Justina were hired on the same day. They applied for the same job, by the way, and that's one of my favorite stories about the two of these wonderful women. She is quite brilliant. She knows an awful lot about the agency. She knows about the expenditure plans. She's a systems thinker with a great sense of humor and a good sense of culture. So I think you'll find her very well balanced. And I know you'll enjoy working with her as your point person. So that is my informational report.
thank you.
Well, welcome.
Thank you. Yeah, I'll just say thank you to Lee. As you know, a year ago, Justina was on leave. The committee was already underway. It was kind of like, oh, we'll just let that train keep going. So it's great to be here with you, starting this cycle and this year. And yeah, Justina and I are old hat, work wives, you could say, because we came in so attached at the hip together, and have worked together. Watched her get Acumatica built out so we could start being compliant to Measure Q back in the day. So excited to get to know you all in this capacity a little differently, and to all of our conversation, a little succession planning of the passing of batons and passing of knowledge transfer, to get to work with you guys all a little more closely.
Good, thanks.
Excited to be here.
And we're looking forward to working with you as well.
Yeah.
So we'll be seeing less of you, Lee? or-
I'm going to attend the meetings and I will be around, but I will take a step back and do my best at succession planning too.
You'll be hearing from
Yeah.
a combination of Caroline, Justina, or
That's right.
myself when it comes to start planning for getting you all back together to talk about your next milestones and all of that.
Okay. Great, cool. Any other comments from the staff? Any comments from the committee? Oh, all right.
Just on the subject of, on the last item, or just general comments?
Well, on both.
Okay, I was just general comment. I represented our committee at the volunteer event
Oh,
in, I don't know when it was, in October.
Oh, good.
And it was wonderful. It was at the Tilton Ranch. And I recommend that you keep putting planning of the use of the house. Keep moving that down so that you
So
can-
it's available
the
for those
status
kinds of
quo,
events.
yeah. And it was a great event, and it's just nice to see all the volunteers that you have, and if you get a chance to go, it's
Was it the lunch or breakfast?
Breakfast.
Breakfast, yeah,
Yeah.
that is fun to go to.
yeah, I recommend the A sandwich?
And to Jeff's point, for the committee and staff members as well, as you network with your network, you mentioned that we're always looking to fill out our quota here. I think we're a 7 member.
That's right.
Okay, so I'm counting, well, hopefully I'm counting 5, but let's get more folks on that. And I see a subcommittee report, and I think recruiting don't we have a recruiting subcommittee?
We do actually, and that's a great segue to perhaps the next meeting we agendize picking a new committee. The last time we picked one was in 2023.
Okay.
And we had one applicant, I believe, in 2024. But that was 2023, and then she wasn't able to make any of the meetings.
Mhm.
So I would recommend maybe at our next meeting we agendize creating a new subcommittee for recruitment. Now that we will have potentially 5 members.
Okay,
Okay.
Yeah.
right, and we again just get the word, mention it, especially right now. Most of COVID's behind us. We can mention we get together. People are looking to volunteer right now. It's a good time of the year. People's resolution, they're still making up their minds. So, Dennis picked up on something I posted in Nextdoor.
I didn't even think of, that's brilliant,
So,
actually. I should do that.
yeah, let's, connect your network.
I didn't even think of that.
So, are there any other comments or questions?
Okay.
All right. So, do I ask for public?
If you like,
Yeah. Are there any comments from the public? No? Okay.
No,
All right. Thank you. Then I can,
You can gavel us out.
Okay.
Bang that gavel.
If there's any more comments,
I just got one question. What's the schedule of the meetings? That's
good question. That would be determined, we, at this point, the onus is on OSA staff to put packets together.
okay.
And then somehow they get to us.
Okay.
And then we can start thinking about.
The US mail.
Yes.
Somehow it does get
Right next to the newspaper.
So we're gonna schedule a mail then.
Yeah.
Something can come in the mail. Yes, okay,
Mhm.
perfect.
For the packets, and then for
Yeah.
the next meeting,
And then there'll be, typically Caroline starts
So,
pulsing us. How's this date and time working? Is that okay?
Yeah.
And then when we agree on something, then we meet.
I think it's usually about 2 months from now.
I think it's usually 2 months. I think you're right. I think it was March.
Yeah, it's usually January, we have one, around March, April, we kind of have one, and then they'll May, June for the review of the
Mhm.
oversight report.
Right.
And then the one field trip around in October.
Four, 3.
Right, perfect. Okay, thank you.
All right, there's no other questions. We'll adjourn the meeting. At 1:45.
Gotta gavel it.
There you go.
Right.
Nicely done.
Nice.
And I kind of like this room.